Entering his 20th season as a member of Nessen's Red Sox broadcasts and his 18th season as host of the pre- and post-game shows, Tom Caron, a Lewiston, Maine native, joined Nessen in 1995 and has served as a Red Sox field reporter, studio host for Boston Bruins hockey, and play-by-play announcer for the Beanpot and Hockey East. Prior to Nessen, Caron was the play-by-play voice of the Portland Pirates of the AHL and was inducted into the team's Hall of Fame in 2014. An 8-time New England Emmy Award winner, Caron has been awarded New England's favorite local TV sports personality 7 times by Channel Media Sports Research's New England Sports Survey. Caron is involved in many local and regional charities, including Mass Mentoring, Good Sports, Inc., the Run to Home Base program, and the Red Sox Foundation. And most of all, for me personally, Tom Caron has been a personal friend of mine since the 1990s. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. So, Tom, it's so nice to have you on the PR Maven podcast today.
Hello, Nancy. How are you?
Well as a social butterfly in a global pandemic can be after 14 months.
Yeah, these times were not made for you.
No, they were definitely not made for me at all. I'm ready to bust out.
Oh, it's coming. The roaring 20s are coming.
Yeah, right. Love that, yeah. So, Tom, we go back a long, long way.
Yes, we do.
Can you talk about your career and how you got into it in the first place?
Sure. I'm a kid from Lewiston, Maine, who grew up loving sports and wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to be a sports writer, majored in journalism. And, but I don't want to date myself or ourselves or some of the people listening. But when I was a kid, The Odd Couple was my favorite show. And Oscar Madison is a character in The Odd Couple who was the slob sports writer who everything I saw in him looked like the greatest life I could imagine. So I wanted to be Oscar Madison and be a slob and be a sports writer and go to games and get paid. So I majored in journalism, and true story, there was a deadline for an internship at St. Michael's College, my alma mater, and I didn't know anything about it because being the slob sports writer, I wasn't paying any attention to those things. And somebody said, you got to get your internship today because that's part of the major. You have to have an internship. So I'm running into my advisor, and there were like there was like an internship at one of these grocery store, like Auto Trader newsletters that you got to be the copy editor of the cars that were being sold in the newsletter. And there's something else. And then this NBC affiliate had just posted a last minute internship. And of the 3, that sounded way more interesting. So I did an internship. I fell in love with television, did another internship. Got hired by that station as a weekend anchor in Plattsburgh, New York for $50 a week to be the weekend anchor. And then via Plattsburgh, New York and Portland, Maine at Channel 13 and the Portland Pirates, I've now been at Nessen for 25 years.
Wow. Well, I think we probably met when you were at Channel 13 in Portland, Maine, because at that time I was the PR person for Sugarloaf, and I had a pretty dreamy job where I could invite people like you up to go skiing and then do après ski and then just make sure you had a good time and went back and said good things on the air.
It was a win-win relationship. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I will say our first encounter, and you may have even forgot about this, was at the public television auction in Lewiston, Maine, where I was a host from Channel 13, and you were a volunteer, I believe. You used to work the auction, didn't you?
Yes, actually, I wasn't a volunteer. That was one of my first. I did forget about that, to be honest. But yes, that was one of my first jobs out of Colby. I actually got paid. I think I got paid like $8 an hour for that job.
I was volunteering my time at the auction, so congratulations. You were out earning me. And then came your illustrious first at Sugarloaf, and then the great thing was that was when I was at Channel 13, right?
Yes.
And then I moved on to Nessen. Now you had your hooks in me for all of New England. And you know, by now you were the PR maven, or you were on your way to being the PR maven that you are today. So if you go back over I will once in a while hear from somebody who's going through the old archives at Nessen, and they'll be like, how did you go whitewater rafting for a week? Or how did you get on a 3-masted windjammer for a week? How did you pull this off? I knew somebody. And
well, it became part of my pitch when I was getting new clients. Oh, yes, I'll have you on Nessen within the first few weeks of you hiring
We really thought about renaming the show the Nancy Marshall Hour. That just would have cut right to the chase.
As you said, it was definitely a win-win relationship.
I got to get back to that. Somehow now I work. I have to stay up late and do baseball games. I want to go back and go whitewater rafting and skiing again.
Well, you know, Bill Green retired, so there could be Tom Caron's Maine.
No, I think Bill Green has cornered that market in Maine, in that world. That's sad that he retired, by the way. That makes me sad. I like Bill. I saw him. In fact, I did a thing with him virtually here for the Maine Sports Hall of Fame, and we did a thing for high school kids across the state, and it was pretty cool. He had a bunch of great Mainers, and we had a really good time. But Bill is truly a legend, and I can't, but I worked alongside him covering stories all those years. And, you know, the great thing is if you follow him on social media, his retirement is the same thing he did in his life. He's just not getting paid as much anymore. You know, he's fishing, he's out, he's hunting, he's hiking, he's on a boat. I mean, that's what he's been doing for how many years?
Yeah, but he's also running the Maine Sports Hall of Fame now. So that's
what I was saying. I did that event for him there. But I think that's just something he loves to do. You know, but he's still wearing his anorak Parker from LL Bean hiking somewhere as we speak. I mean,
yes, that's right. And he's gotten into cycling too, so he's probably getting ready to get his road bike out. And
see, that's a good. I got into that during the pandemic. I hadn't had a bike since I had a Huffy in Lewiston, Maine when I was a kid. You know, and I went out and I got a bike from LL Bean because I'm a good Mainer. And I pounded the pavement biking during the pandemic because it just, as much, I say it was so I could get out of the house. My wife, Kelly, my kids, it was really because they wanted me out of the house when we were all stuck on top of each other. So the biking had been great. It helped me put off the COVID-20 that a lot of people got during COVID-19. And just reconnect that. We, some great rides. I live sort of along the Boston Marathon route, so I would do that a lot. And it's just, biking has been a great way to get outside and get out of all this.
Yeah, I was just reading a newspaper article that bike shops cannot get inventory. There's such a surge in interest in cycling that there's a backlog of orders that, if you ordered a road bike right now, you might not get it for 2 years.
So you got to plan ahead. I read that, a year ago. I remember sitting here a year ago, and I got it in April of last year. And I remember reading in the New York Times that you're not going to be able to get a bike. And the two things I did right away, which were the smartest purchases I made of the pandemic, is I got a bike and I got one of these outdoor heaters for your patio, like an overhead heater. I got one of those before anybody, and so we were able to sit outside to December, which was huge.
Oh, that's great. Good for you. Well, yeah, I'm now the proud owner of a Peloton myself, and And
I got to knock off. See, you were ahead of the game if you got a Peloton. Those take months to get now.
I do like it. I feel like those instructors are looking right at me and telling me to work a little harder.
Now, that's a good conversation, and you're throwing brands around. So, I don't know if Peloton's a sponsor, but I didn't get a Peloton. I got something called a Mix Fitness, which is the same thing, bike and a thing, but no camera. Like none of it's live. And that fits you're a social butterfly. I don't need a community of people telling me I'm doing great. I don't need anybody patting me on the back. I want to just grunt and sweat and have nobody see me. And so it's all on tape. You call up a 40-minute cycling class or whatever, but they can't see you. And that was much more my speed.
Well, I live for the moment when those instructors give a shout out to the main PR maven. And then I'm like giving high fives to all the other people in the class. There's people in Hawaii and in Denver, Colorado. And I'm like high-fiving them all. They're probably like, who is this crazy woman from Maine?
See, you're reinforcing that I made the right decision. I would do that once, and you, maybe you, I know you, but if it was someone I didn't know trying to high-five me, I would never get back on that bike, ever. I would sell it to somebody the next day. So there you go. But you know what? Some people have connected to communities through that, and good for them. It's why I was like the last person my age on Facebook. I used to tell people, listen, there's a lot of ways people can tell me I suck on Nessen. I didn't need to find new ways for them to directly tell me I suck. But here, now I've got Twitter, and you can just tell me I suck anytime you want. So that's fine.
Well, you mentioned a community, and I actually did want to bring up the community of Red Sox Nation because, as you know, this podcast is about branding. And I think one of the keys to having a strong brand is to have a brand community of raving fans, which obviously Red Sox Nation is, a very tight community. And how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a leader of Red Sox Nation or just a member of it? Or where do you see yourself fitting in?
It's funny because you know me pretty well, and I'm just a guy from Lewiston who keeps fooling them, and they keep paying me to watch baseball games. It's worked out pretty well, but it's funny when I got I got something sent to me from somebody because Twitter identified me as a baseball influencer, and gave me the blue check 5 years ago, and whatever. But yeah, leader is a strong word, but I'm what's a word? There was a word that I kind of laughed about, but I use it more and more. It'll come to me later. See, I don't use it that much. But it's sort of I look at myself as kind of the guy who brings everybody around the campfire. Okay, and I don't need to lead the conversation, but I make sure we're having the conversation. And I use that expression a lot, because I'm from Maine, and I sat around a lot of campfires as a kid. But I also, there's something communal about that. There is kind of a, people talk, you'll hear marketing people in baseball talk about, and tribe maybe isn't the right word, but the group that you are in and what Red Sox does. And I could go on and on about that. I have a friend who's a general in the armed forces. He's in the Army, and he would send me stuff from Afghanistan in 2007, just thanking me. And here are guys out there in harm's way, but he's like, you have no idea what being able to watch your show after a World Series game on a stream does for the 23 guys we have from New England. And a Yankee show does the same for the guys from New York, right? And a Cubs game does it from the guys but there is, you grow up here, you're kind of, and I think the Red Sox, listen, the Patriots are king now. There's no doubt about that. Football's the biggest thing in the world. But there's still something about the Red Sox that I think you're born into. I was a Red Sox fan because my dad was a Red Sox fan. I didn't have any choice. He'd kick me in the backside if I told him I was a Yankee fan one day. You're just born into it here in New England. And so I do feel that if I don't know if I'm a leader of Red Sox Nation, but I'm a leader of the conversation that goes on nightly, and it's a long season, so that's a pretty powerful position.
Well, I do feel that having, such a strong brand, such a strong group or community of raving fans makes the Red Sox a stronger brand. And I mean, that supports the team and that supports the sales of swag and supports ticket sales. And it brings people together.
I'll jump in. Yeah, but I'll jump in, Nancy, that it also is why the Red Sox Foundation is the biggest professional team related charity in America. Because the fan, it is a powerful brand, a powerful connection. Right. I mean, a lot of people wear Red Sox caps who aren't Red Sox fans. 2019, the Red Sox and Yankees played in London. It was a big thing, first game in Europe. And I was over there to cover it. And, a lot of Yankee caps running around London. And none of them were Yankee fans. It's just a New York connection. People in Europe think New York is cool, so the NY is cool. I think the same happens with the Red Sox. You go up in northern Vermont or Bangor or the good side of Connecticut, which is this side of Fairfield County where we cheer for the Red Sox. But those, that Red Sox cap, you wear a Red Sox cap because you're from Boston and you're going to Ohio State as a freshman, you're going to get stopped 10 times that day by other people from New England who are going to talk about the Red Sox. So I do think it's a powerful connection. And honestly, over the last year, with everything going on in the social justice space and some of the craziness that's happened in our country, I've thought more and more about that platform. I've used that platform. I've pissed some people off by using that platform to talk about what I believe in. But it is, it's a powerful, it is a powerful community because it expands over 6 states and there's a lot of Red Sox fans.
That's for sure. Yeah. And they're passionate, too, about their team.
Well, they are, because like I told you, I mean, plenty of them have told me what they think about me, and it's not always good. But there's no doubt about it. Listen, I mean, our biggest post-game show ratings are quite often games that the Red Sox blew in the 9th inning. Because it just ended, and you're so raw and you're so fired up that you can't turn it off. And I hate to say, a walk-off win is good for ratings too, but some of those losses were pretty good for post-game ratings.
Well, talking about passionate, you're also passionate about hockey. So, what is your favorite sport, hockey or baseball?
Over the years, it's probably changed. I used to say hockey was my favorite sport, but the Red Sox were my favorite team. But I've been doing baseball so long now, and I still do college hockey. So that's been a great way to stay involved in it. They've been awesome. I just finished doing the Hockey's playoffs, UMass against UMass Lowell last weekend. I talk to Red Gendron up in Orono all the time, the head coach at UMaine. I think he's building the team back in the right direction and has had a few really good seasons. So I do get to stay. I run a program down here, the Central Mass Outlaws, which is a youth hockey program, a select program as we call it, which has kids. We have 300 kids playing for us and 20 teams. So I'm still very involved in hockey, but over the years now, this will be my 20th year as part of the Red Sox broadcast, which is crazy. And it's just baseball's in my blood. Usually I go to spring training for the whole thing. So you're down there and that's really your entire world is baseball. You forget the rest of the world is going on. It was a little weird to be up here in February and March this year. It's been a long time, but baseball has become my favorite sport just because it gets in your veins. It's nightly. And with the Red Sox, it's a soap opera. Every day. I mean, you turn the radio down here in the morning and everybody's talking about last night's game and who's going tonight. And the storytelling that comes out of that is what makes this great. But I do still love hockey, and I'm still involved in it, but I'm a baseball guy. And by the way, I've also become a huge soccer fan over these last few. My son plays in college, and we watch a lot of soccer, and I've actually talked a lot with the guys who were trying to bring the pro team to Portland, which I think is exciting. So it's funny. If you ask me now, I might tell you as far as pure fandom goes, I might be more of a soccer fan than anything because the games, we watch the games from England. We're big Liverpool fans. And those games are on Saturday morning. And that's the only sport that I'm not working when the game, the Bruins, half the time I'm doing another game, I'm working. Tonight, the Red Sox are on and the Bruins on back and forth. Soccer, I'm not working at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. So I watch a lot of soccer as a fan.
And I just want to give a little shout out to your son, Robbie, who did just have a birthday.
He
And
did.
he's as cute as ever. I've been a big fan of Robbie since he was a little boy.
He's a good kid.
Yeah.
He's back. Yeah, he's at Hobart in Western New York. He's playing soccer there, and he just turned 21, so he drank his first beer. I'm sure he
Oh,
never had one.
right.
I'm sure he never had one prior to that. So yeah, he's a good kid. And our other son Jack is in Vermont, and he's doing great. He's a hippie in a band and plays guitar and has a good life. So we're lucky. Like your boys.
Yes.
They took some of the good things from me and some of the not so good things from me, and somehow became their own person.
Yeah. No, it's really great to see them all grow up and become their own people.
Well, it's nice that they're not here eating me out of house and home. Robbie came home with the pandemic. I'll tell you what, man. You talk about, what'd you say, 13 months now we're in this? It was March of last year. Kelly and I had spring training because we go down for the whole thing now. And there was that week where everything started shutting down, and all of a sudden, and our two sons were flying down to Florida to spend like 5 days with us. And we called them last minute and say, stay where you are. Robbie had spring break coming, so we said, drive home instead. And he was not real happy because he was coming to see us and then going to Miami for spring break. And we got kicked out of Florida, basically. Major League Baseball said, yeah, we're shutting down. You can't be around here. And everything just stopped. And all of a sudden, poor Robbie, who was finishing up his freshman year in college, he all of a sudden, was home for the next 8 months. And it's just, looking back, it's just hard to believe a year's gone by. It certainly hasn't flown by because everything's been crawling. But it is pretty amazing that, within a year, we've got 3 approved vaccines and there is kind of light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, but remember at the beginning of COVID-19, we were all saying, oh, yeah, a few weeks, well, if you had told us then that we would be kind of hibernating for as long as we have.
Right. Mainers understand. I kept saying those first few weeks, and, they couldn't buy toilet paper and all that stuff, right? And I kept saying, it's like hoarding for a snowstorm. Everybody's running around frantically, getting wipes and hand sanitizer and toilet paper, and a snowstorm lasts, a bad one, a nor'easter might be 2.5 days. This has been 13 months, and it's still snowing. You can't clear the driveway fast enough. But I'll tell you, what? The perfect example is we left Florida, and every year I bring my golf clubs down to Florida to play golf. And I give them to the guys with the Red Sox because I'm cheap, and they throw it in the truck, and I get them at Fenway. Like an idiot, thinking we'd be back in Florida in 2 or 3 weeks, I brought my clubs over to those guys, and they were quarantined at the ballpark in Fort Myers for 3 months because everything was shut down. And so I'm up here with nothing but time, and I can't go golf because my clubs are in Florida. So it shows what I was thinking. I was we'll be back in a couple weeks. No big deal.
Right, yeah.
I did buy new clubs. It was a good excuse to get new clubs.
Oh, good.
So it worked
good.
out.
And a new bike.
I've done some spending. I'm trying to, the economy needs help, everybody. Get out there and do your part.
So why do you think baseball is America's favorite pastime? What is it about baseball that draws so many viewers and fans?
My worry is it's not America's favorite pastime anymore. Football has become the undisputed king of the world. Football has stomped on every other sport. Here in New England, the Patriots are a year-round obsession now, and we understand why. They've had 6 championships, and they had the Tom Brady drama of Deflategate, and now they have the Tom Brady drama of leaving and going to Tampa Bay and winning another Super Bowl. But I do think that what baseball does is survive. Baseball helped us get through World War II. Baseball will help us get through the pandemic. Baseball was there after 9/11. Baseball for us in Boston after the Boston Marathon bombing helped the city get back on its feet and won a championship. I think this is going to be a really interesting baseball year, Nancy, because I think, the idea, you can talk about other sports all you want, and people complain about baseball nowadays because it's too long and too slow, but now I want to sit at a ballpark with a hot dog and a beer and have it last forever. I don't want to go home. I think people are going to sort of come back to that slow down pace after all this, that they're not going to be rushing on to the next thing as fast, I hope. And I think, and I know this, next Thursday is opening day at Fenway Park. Thursday, April 1st is opening day at Fenway Park. And there's going to be fans there. 4,400 fans, give or take. It's 12%. That's what the state has set. But it's going to be the first time in 18 months that any fans are there. And Eduardo Rodriguez is going to be on the mound opening day, start at Fenway Park. Eduardo Rodriguez, a year ago, had COVID-19. He was one of the first athletes to get it. He then developed myocarditis, which is a heart ailment, and he had to sit around for 3 months and couldn't do anything. And so for him to be back and be healthy and be on the mound in front of fans at Fenway for the first time in 18 months, I don't want to get too romantic, but that's pretty powerful. Next Thursday afternoon at Fenway, live fans watching a guy who's recovered from COVID throw a baseball for the Red Sox. I mean, and over the course of the season, there's going to be 4,400 on opening day. Maybe there's going to be 10,000 on Memorial Day. Maybe there's going to be 20,000 on the 4th of July. Maybe there's going to be a full house on Labor Day. And you're going to kind of watch life come back before us at Fenway Park on Nessen over the course of the summer. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And actually, I have to say, I have your column from the Portland Press-Herald in front of me, so I know that the Red Sox are playing the Orioles on that day.
There you go. Good idea, by the way. Read my column in the Portland Press-Herald.
Yes, I've been studying it.
Branding right there. Thank you.
I've been studying. Yeah. Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because, there's Red Sox Nation brand. There's also the personal brand of Tom Caron, and you have done a pretty good job of managing your personal brand, in my opinion.
Thank you. And your opinion means something in this field. I learned everything from you, so that's good. It is funny because I'm the kind of guy who what's the word? I guffaw at branding, right? Yeah. I would never talk about my brand. I just would never acknowledge that. And yet, everything I do sort of builds the brand, right? I mean, so I'm here at Nessen, which is, great. And they've given me the platform. And, it's too bad you don't have a video set up because the seat where I'm doing this, my sort of TV seat, I have the casual flex of like 5 Emmys over my shoulder, that there to remind everybody. But, the radio stuff I do WBLM in Portland every Friday. I do one in Vermont on Tuesday. I do one in New York in Rhode Island on Monday. I do one in New Hampshire on Friday as well. So those radio station appearances certainly help the brand. The Portland Press-Herald column I've done for a long time now. I was trying to figure that out. I think it's probably been 12 or 13 years I've been writing for the Press-Herald. All of that sort of gives me a voice beyond Nessen. So maybe you didn't watch me at the game last night, but you might hear me on BLM driving to work on Friday, or you might read me on Tuesday in the Press-Herald. I think if you can sort of expand yourself a little bit, and listen, Nessen is my job. Nessen is my priority. I never let anything take away from what I do here. But I think all that stuff's important. And then social media, and I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I think most people do. But, early on, I realized Twitter was a really good place to exchange ideas, to promote things you're doing, to engage fans. I do try to engage and react. And, I've got 60,000 followers, which is great. But it just means a lot of people are interested in the Sox and what I do. And what I have to say, trying to build up my Instagram follow, because that's, you got to be on Instagram to be cooler. So I'm trying to get that up there a little bit. And I am on Facebook now. I dabbled in Snapchat. It's just I get a headache. I don't get it. It's too fast. And my son shows me TikTok and I glaze over. I don't even get TikTok. I know.
You and Kelly need to do some dancing in the kitchen on TikTok.
I just don't get it. Everybody's just dancing. I don't get it. I don't want to sound like the old guy. I know it's great. And again, my son, like Robbie, he's watching a lot of TikTok videos. And, teams do it. And some of it is engaging. But most of it is just, 3 people doing a dance. And
right, exactly.
I'm not the target audience.
Sometimes scantily clad.
Yeah, I get that. And the 25-year-old me probably would have got that more. I'm not the target audience. So I don't do TikTok, quite frankly. I was on it for like 2 days just so I could try to, but I couldn't even figure out how to follow. I was on Snapchat to follow my kids.
Right.
just see what they're doing. And I lost the password, and I had been back in. I sound like such an old man. But TikTok, I was on 2 days, and I got a headache, and I just got rid of it. I can't do it. Someday I'll get on it. But I do think the social media stuff you do is important. And but I do think you have to decide who you're going to be in this business. Are you a social media influencer first and foremost, who maybe works on television or does TV as a side? I'm not. I'm a TV personality who uses social media to sort of support and prop and engage with fans about what I do on television. And I don't let social media ever be my priority. And I know a lot of people in this business who do. And it's like, I get it, but you've got, 1,600 followers on Instagram, and you spend more time on that than you do. And there's 120,000 people watching you tonight on a Red Sox game. What's more important?
Right. But does Nessen encourage you to boost your following on social? Do they reward you for that in any way?
No, there's no reward. Nessen's got a really robust social media presence, so they help us with things and provide us with things and suggest things. And I've seen some people who have those. They must be happy with what I do because they've never brought it up as a goal. We have goals and objectives like every other job on earth. Social media has never been, other than, I guess the reward would be, they have said, we'd like you to do a minimum of one post a week, but I do that anyway. I do try to. I think what's cool for someone who's sort of embedded in television as I am, right? I'm whatever. I'm New England's dinner guest, right? Most people have the pregame on while they're finishing dinner, cooking dinner, waiting for the game, and I'm sort of in the background. But I do think where I'm sort of part of the tapestry of the New England sports landscape, I think it's cool to be able to use social media to show you behind the scenes. Joking around with a Jim Rice or showing you, what Dennis Eckersley is eating for dinner, even if he doesn't want me to show you. But there's a lot of fun you can have by taking people behind the scenes and showing them what's going on.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Jim Rice and Dennis Eckersley, because in the past when I've come to see you on Yawkey Way, I love to see them too and get autographs.
You love to see me. Don't lie. You go all fangirl. I try to introduce you as some professional, this is the way, Jim, she could help your brand, and you're just, oh my God, Jim Rice. There's it's all gone. All the professionalism's gone as soon as you see Ed.
I get a little googly eyed. I think,
It's weird. I still sometimes my God, Jim Rice texted me a couple days ago about something I did on hockey. And I was like, it's Jim Rice, man. That's a Hall of Famer. And he's texting me. So it is cool that I've earned the trust of these guys. It's neat.
Yeah, it is.
But you're going to blow it because then they remember I'm just a schmo from Maine. Well, that's oh my God, it's Jim Rice.
I was just going to bring up your Maine connection. As you said, you're born and raised in Maine. You still have a second home in Maine. What is it about the state of Maine that you love so much?
All the freebies you set me up with. That's why would I go get a place on the Cape? It's nothing free on the Cape. Nancy's in Maine. No, you know what? We both, my wife's from Lewiston as well. Kelly's from Lewiston. We still have a lot of family and friends up there. So when we decided it would be cool to get a place, we got one in Bridgeton. We love Bridgeton. You can ski in the winter. You can hang out on the boat in the summer. There's a lot of great restaurants. It's a cool spot. So we love Maine. I get back to Maine a lot. I've reconnected with a lot of people in Lewiston, in the last 5-10 years, their high school soccer program with a lot of immigrant kids and young men who have really become an inspirational team for a lot of us who grew up in Lewiston or live in Lewiston now. Amy Bass, the New York Times writer, wrote a great book called One Goal, which is about the first state championship. And it's really kind of a modern day Friday Night Lights, how soccer, the world game, became. I played soccer in Lewiston, and Lewiston had never won a state championship. And then this community of many African immigrants suddenly got engaged in the high school program and took it to levels we never could have. And now the city has rallied around these kids, which is really powerful to see. So anyway, we kind of got reconnected with Maine. But the true story is we ended up buying the place because I was at a Halloween party down here. having a couple of beers with a friend's friend, and he was like, "Hey, you're from Maine. I'm thinking of selling my place up there. You got any interest?" And 3 beers later, I was buying a house in Maine. Most expensive Halloween party I've ever been to. But
sight unseen.
Sight unseen. No, he did let us go up and check it out for a weekend. And the funny thing is, Kelly's always been roughing it for Kelly is a Marriott Courtyard as opposed to a Ritz. And but we fell in love with the community in the area, and we love Bridgeton.
Well, that's a great shout out for the town of Bridgeton, which is a great place, and Shawnee Peak is a great place to ski too.
It is a great place. I mean, you know what? The problem is that we get so lazy, and I don't want to say it's a problem because Shawnee Peak's a lot of fun, but I haven't been to Sugarloaf or Sunday River in years because we're a mile from, a mile and a half, whatever it is, to Shawnee Peak. It's just so easy. It's been great. We've been up a few times this winter. It's been great in the pandemic because you can get dressed at home, drive over, put your boots on, walk up and ski. So they've done a really good job with that. But I got to get back to some of these other, Saddleback I heard is exciting again. And so I got to get back up there next winter. We made the mistake of letting our kids play youth hockey, and it gets in the way of skiing. There's just no doubt about it. Now, you did it right. You had your kids ski, so then you could turn everything into big family ski things.
Right.
We were chasing them in their stinky bag of hockey gear all over New England, but never skiing. We get like one weekend of skiing a year, one vacation a year. But now that we're back up there, we get there more often.
Yeah. Well, I'll look forward to skiing with you next winter.
Yeah, I know. We kept talking about it, but then, it took COVID to keep us apart. Now.
Life happens.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a short break. I want to talk about my new book called Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand, which actually is a year old now. I wrote it at the outset of COVID, but it's on Amazon.com, and it's available as a paperback, Kindle, or even Audible. So you could get a free Kindle version if you go to prmaven.com/giveaway. And we're going to hear a little bit about my message mapping mastery course. And then we'll be back with more from Tom Caron in just a moment.
Do you want to grow your client or customer base? Perhaps increase brand awareness? Maybe tell your unique story more effectively? Of course you do. But you may be worried that you don't have enough expertise to make that happen. Well, no worries, PR Maven Nation. Let the PR Maven herself, Nancy Marshall, show you how easy it is to get your message across effectively using a powerful yet simple tool, a message map. Nancy's training is often called informative and constructive, well-designed and impactful, with a perfect blend of theory and real-life experience. You will leverage Nancy's expertise to create your own message map when you register for this comprehensive online video training course, which is broken down into 4 easy-to-understand modules. Normally, this course is priced at $147, but for listeners of the PR Maven podcast, that's you, PR Maven Nation, it's only $29 when you enter the code word podcast during enrollment. It even includes a workbook and bonus content to guide you through the process. So go to prmaven.com and click on the Message Map Mastery course to enroll today. Remember, enter the word podcast during enrollment for a special discounted price of $29.
Welcome back. And today we're talking with Tom Caron, who's host and reporter for Nessen. I'm going to dive right back in with more questions for Tom. So for the Red Sox fans who are listening, tell me about the team and how are they doing during the pandemic?
Well, last year was awful. I mean, there's no way to get around it. It was, I like to say the Red Sox mirrored society in 2020. It was an absolute bleep show. Life was a mess and the Red Sox were a mess. So I guess if you're going to have a bad year, it wasn't a bad time to have it. There were no fans in the stands anyway. And as our ratings prove, very few were watching Nessen. So hopefully that'll be better. I think it will be. They just had, between injuries, I told you, Eduardo Rodriguez with the COVID, he missed the whole year. Chris Sale, their best pitcher, had Tommy John surgery. He missed the whole year. It was just a mess from the get-go. They had the highest ERA, the worst pitching in the history of the franchise. And they've been around for more than 100 years. So forget about 2020, like so many other things. Better days ahead and better baseball ahead, Nancy. They've added a lot of guys. There's not a lot of expectation. A lot of fans here in Boston don't think they'll be very good. I think they are actually going to be sneaky good. I think they will. They're going to hit the ball. They've got a good lineup. Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers, JD Martinez. They've still got the core. But, it's a different team. They traded away Mookie Betts, which was wildly unpopular, but they thought it was the right thing to do. Andrew Benintendi got traded away, also wildly unpopular. And then Jackie Bradley Jr. left via free agency. So it's a whole new outfield. A lot of the guys who were so good in 2018 are gone. But more importantly, the pitching has been improved. They've got a lot of new pitchers. So I think they're going to surprise some people, and I think they'll be in the playoff hunt.
Well, I'm disappointed that Mookie Betts is gone just because I like his name.
See, it's those hard-hitting baseball questions that I on the show. He's a generational talent. Nice name, good player, too, as it turns out.
I can't wait for my two sons to listen to this interview. They're going to be like, Mom, I cannot believe you were interviewing
What did you ask him about Mookie? I said I really like his name. Anything else you want to get to? Any players?
Well, I do want to mention the Citgo sign, of course. I have to always remind you that my great-grandfather built that Citgo sign.
Right. That's right. See, now that's a claim to fame. I mean, that's a claim.
I know, yeah. So my mother's grandfather had a neon sign company called the C.I. Brink Sign Company, which introduced neon into the eastern United States, and that Citgo sign was one of their first and most famous, but they built other famous neon signs all around New England. So I am pretty proud of that.
That's got to be the most famous.
It is definitely the most famous neon sign.
The players used to say, "See it go." Like that was that was their whole thing. If you hit a home run, you see it go.
Oh, yeah.
The sign. So there you go. Mo Vaughn, you say that.
Yeah.
Mo Vaughn's going to be, that's big news for Nessen this year. We've got a bunch of new analysts coming in. Mo Vaughn is going to be joining me on the pregame show this year, which I think is really cool. That's somebody we haven't heard a lot of. And Kevin Youkilis and Jonathan Papelbon, some guys who were pretty popular as players. So that'll be fun.
Well, I do remember those names, just for the record.
Anybody have a good name? Mo's a pretty good name. Did you like that?
Youkilis, that's got a nice ring to it.
Uke, except you thought they were booing, so it was like Uke, and you didn't, And Papelbon, if you remember Papelbon, he danced with the Bud Light box on his head when they won the when they made the playoffs.
Oh, that's my kind of a guy. Yeah, he should be doing TikTok videos.
He probably is. I'm not on TikTok. I don't know.
So, do you hope to be on Yawkey Way again this season?
Yes, Jersey Street, as we call it now, because of various reasons. But yeah, we expect to be. We won't be at the start of the year because it's a small stage and it's hard to to socially distance out there. But I've been told we will be before too long.
And why do you call it Jersey Street?
Well, they renamed it Jersey Street, so it's not Yawkey Way. And if you followed it, there was, the history of the Red Sox was not good in terms of race, and there's a lot of belief that Tom Yawkey didn't do very much to stop some of the inherent racism that was going on in the Red Sox. And the new owners, John Henry, one of the first things he said, it was a bit controversial because the Yawkey Foundation has done a lot of really good work in the community. But he wanted to remove the name Yawkey. So it really had only been called Yawkey Way for, I think, 30 or 40 years. So Jersey Street is what it was called prior to that. So they went back to the original name.
Nice. That's a nice statement.
It is. They have, the Red Sox have not been afraid on that front to address mistakes that were made in the past. And last year they had a Black Lives Matter banner right across center field because there were no seats, no fans in the seats. So they put that right on the seats. And they really encourage their players to use their platform on social media and other things to champion social causes. And I think it's great.
Yeah, I do too. Absolutely. So, Tom, what is a book, an app, or a website that you have found helpful in your career or your life, and why?
A book, an app, or a website? Well, clearly your book is going to be influential because I haven't read it yet. So now that I can go to, what was it, Ringer? See, I'm giving you the free plug now. How do I get a free copy?
It's called Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand. And you may just be getting a copy in the mail in the next week or so. Autographed, no less.
I thought I was doing this for free.
With a special personalized autograph.
Yeah, can you please send this to Jim Rice and Dennis Eckersley? So wait, frame the question again. A book, an app, or that did what?
that you
did
find
what?
helpful? Like, do you have some kind of an app that you use on your phone all the time to keep track of?
I mean, so many of them are really working like that. I mean, the MLB film room is where I go every day to look at clips. And I have this, a stat site that I get buried in for hours a day looking at baseball stats. But beyond that, I don't know. We talked about social media. I guess those are apps. Book wise, I'm trying, I find I read a lot of fiction just to get away from work, just to clear the head, though I end up reading a lot of baseball history stuff. This is really a lousy answer to your question, isn't it? I'm just kind of hemming and hawing all over the place.
What kind of
what
fiction?
was the third one?
What
book, app, or what?
Or website.
Website. But you didn't mean like stats, baseball reference. I mean, it's the website I'm at the most.
What kind of fiction do you read?
I really kind of strange warped fit. Generally, it's post-apocalyptic. Like Kelly laughs that every book I read begins with the end of the world. And then usually there are zombies or clans fighting. I mean, just kind of really out there. Yeah, so some of that, but also, I mean, I like a good Carl Hiaasen, something funny. Nick Hornby, the British writer, I love. Again, you're going to cut this out. So why am I even? You're going to edit this right out. This is awful. If you didn't edit it out, everyone's shutting it off right now. You're losing.
I love that I stumped you on that one.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, words with friends. I don't know. The ESPN app, the Nessen app, the Boston Globe website. I mean, I'm boring. I read about baseball. I read about sports. I do read the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal just to sort of see what's happening in the rest of the world. But that's that. Yeah. That's it. I do look at real estate in Maine every day just because I want to be astonished by how much everything costs in a year after the pandemic. So good for all my friends in Maine who bought property.
Do you read Down East magazine?
I used to. I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't read magazines very much.
No.
I feel bad about that.
Well,
we still get a newspaper we get a newspaper delivered to the house every day. I'm still proud of that.
The Globe.
The Boston Globe. Yeah, the Globe. I still need to hold the newspaper as I drink my coffee, and I can't just do it on a laptop.
I do too. I have the Portland Press Herald right in front of me because I hung on to it. Tuesday's issue, sports section.
A lot of people think the Maine Sunday Telegram is the best, but everyone knows, the real thinker knows that Tuesday's the best day of the week.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny you asked that, and I spend so much time staring at the computer. But I start a lot of stuff on Twitter, but the way I use Twitter is I follow a lot of reporters and writers and news and sports services that I will then follow to read a full article. You know what I mean? So I wind up going a lot of places, but I tend to start a lot of it through Twitter. The Athletic is a really good website with a lot of deep dives in sports, and that's really good stuff.
Is that theathletic.com?
Yeah, theathletic.com. They've done a great job. They've got reporters covering every team. A lot of people, as newspapers around the country, have folded and cut back. There's been a couple. Boston Sports Journal is one here. The Athletic is one nationally that they've really built up their sports. And Nessen has a great website. I mean, it really does. Nessen.com is outstanding to follow New England stuff. And they really, because the passion for New England sports is so strong that they get a lot of followers, because anybody who moved on out of New England, Nessen.com is a great way to stay connected with the community, and it's where you can find the wildly popular podcast TC and Jerry, which is the Jerry Remy and Tom Caron podcast that I co-host now.
Oh, well, there you go.
We're competitors, Nancy.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking you're going to have to reciprocate and have me on as a guest.
We'll have you on. We don't really have guests. The thing is, it's like, I got to tell you, I'm really impressed by the way you do this. I mean, you use a professional, you're recording this through a high-end website. Like, we Zoom, and it's me and Jerry, and somebody records it, And we just talk for a half hour, and then, all right, we'll see you again next week. People like it because it's kind of unfiltered, and we've had a guest like twice. We've been doing it for a year. It's just kind of me asking Jerry stupid stuff, and we go wherever it goes.
Well,
but the funny thing is, we did the first one in Fort Myers next to each other last year, and the next day they shut down spring training. Like, we started this right at the beginning of the pandemic, but it survived. We're still going.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'll have to check it out.
I don't know if you saw this, and now I'm getting all chatty right as you try to shut me up and get off the sign it off. But I was doing a show from the house for like 2 months during the pandemic, and it was kind of fun. We just called it At Home with TC, and I had all kinds of really cool guests come on, and it was just a half-hour show. But we had we had athletes and actors and golfers and politicians. It was just really cool, and that was really fun.
Yeah, somehow I missed that. I don't know what I was doing.
I'd say it's available, but I think they just deleted it all. I think it's all gone. None of it survived. I wanted to get Stephen King on it, but we ran out of time. I was working towards that. But
yeah.
Speaking of a great book, I don't remember. Was it called Faithful? The book he and Stuart Onan wrote on the 2004 Red Sox is outstanding. And not just because I mentioned like 50 times in it, because it's actually a really good read. So,
all right.
If you want to relive the glory of the 04 Red Sox, that's a good place to go.
All right. Well, there you go. Now you have your recommendation of a book.
Well, I mentioned another one earlier, One Goal with Amy Bass. This is the book I would mention.
Right.
Number one.
Okay.
It's about the Lewiston High School soccer team, and that's a great read for anybody in Maine. It really is. It's got a lot of great history about Lewiston. Amy went to Bates before she went on to work for the New York Times and do stuff for the Today Show. So she did time and spent her time in Lewiston, and that didn't sound good. That did time in Lewiston. Spent her time in Lewiston. And it's a great read because it just sort of shows you a side of Lewiston that I don't think people think a whole lot about, and how the community came together. It's very cool.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. If people want to get in touch with you and connect, I think probably Twitter's a good place.
Yeah, Twitter's a good place. I'd like to get more Instagram followers, like I said before. Apparently, I'm not very compelling on Instagram because nobody's joining the party. I'd like to get to 10,000, and I'm like 1,500 away. So. If you could all follow me on Instagram, that'd be great. But don't expect much because I'm not that good at it.
Well, can I give you a little advice?
Yeah, what do you got? Go ahead.
If you're trying to get more followers, don't tell them that it's terrible.
No, I like authenticity. I think transparency is the best way to build your audience. And so if I just come clean and say, listen, you might find it lame. But
you should follow me anyway.
Follow me, and here's the thing: follow me and mute it, so it won't bother you on your timeline. But I'll get the follower. See, it's a win-win. I think that's what everybody should do. I do that with people. I know people. I know young people who are trying to build it up, and I'm really not interested in what they say. So I follow them and I mute it, and I never see it, but they get another follower, so they're happy.
That's what I call authenticity.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, during baseball season, it's pretty good because I do show you a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff at Fenway. But I'll be the first to tell you, come December, it's pretty lame. That's a lot of, like, Karen Christmas photos.
Right.
You probably really don't care about that. So, whatever. But then it's funny. I don't know about you. It's gone the other way. My kids hate it when I post stuff of them because then, Red Sox fan 10296 suddenly wants to follow them, and they're like, I don't want that.
Right. So, yeah. I have
embrace it.
I have been trained. I have to ask permission of my younger son, Jamie, before I can post anything about him on social. And he usually says no.
Like yeah, Robbie's like that. My son Jack is in a band, or was before the pandemic, up in Vermont. And he liked it when I mentioned his band, because then 60,000 people would see my mention of his band.
Right.
So it's funny how, like, certain things they're more than happy you do.
Yeah.
But by and large, forget it. And speaking of which, your son, Craig, was texting me during the hockey game last week. We had a good chat about Boston College losing in double overtime. So,
okay.
So that's engaging my followers. Having a good chat.
Well, they've been lifelong fans of yours, and I suspect they will continue to be.
They're good kids. You did well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty proud.
When can we get back? I haven't whitewater rafted in like 20 years. When can you get me back to the forks?
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. I'll place a call.
I'll come back on another podcast if you get me up to the forks. Okay, so there you go. Work your magic.
I was just talking about when I became a raft guide and I brought Bill Green down the river on the flip day when we all flipped the rafts in the biggest whitewater. And I learned that he is scared to death of water. He was sure he was going to drown. And I thought, well, this is not going to be good for my PR career if I drown Bill Green.
That's not a good place to start.
No.
I would agree with that.
And on that note, thank you for joining us today. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again. And I will look forward to coming on the Tom and Jerry show.
Yeah. And by the way, it's not the Tom and Jerry. We were told by corporate we couldn't call it the Tom and Jerry. That was the whole idea. The only reason we do the podcast is we thought it'd be funny to have a Tom and Jerry podcast. And then after doing one of them, they said, yeah, you can't do that. So it's the TC and Jerry podcast. And we just figure people will get the joke.
Yeah, I got it.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll have you on so you can tell me how to get more Instagram followers. Okay. Maybe start by putting up better content. Maybe it's really simple, I think.
Well, have a good night. And I want to thank everybody in PR Maven Nation, which I'm trying to grow to be as big as Red Sox Nation.
There you go. I'll be the host. I'll be the host of the PR Maven pregame show.
Oh, good. Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. When you retire from the Red Sox.
There you go. Perfect.
All right. Thanks for joining me.
It's a lot of fun.
That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you feel that you've gotten value out of today's conversation, consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever app you're using to tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so. I release a new episode each week, and subscribing will make sure you get an alert when there's a new episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation by going to prmaven.com/nation and clicking join. It's free and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you have an Alexa-enabled device, be sure to add the PR Maven Marketing Minute to your daily flash briefing menu. Thanks again for listening and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.